Paris, 1937. It's night, around 10:30 p.m. A woman walked into a cafe. She looked around, left and right, and saw an empty table for two. She walked over, pulled out a chair, and took a seat against the window. The owner came by and asked if he could bring her anything to eat or drink. She asked how much a coffee and croissant would come to. "About 2 francs," he replied. She ordered one of each. It started to rain outside, and as she watched the droplets bounce off the streetlights, she anxiously rubbed the tips of her toes together. The story is taken underground to the home of Gervais, Nana, and Lantiers, a family of rats with a rather poor reputation. Gervais is standing over the sink, wringing out the kitchen rags and hanging them off the cupboards to dry. In their living room, there is green wallpaper with little white flowers in diamond borders, an old orange Chesterfield, and the tiniest little black and white TV you could imagine. Lantiers sat alone in the living room watching the news. A lot of rain today. As Gervais was doing her chores, Lantiers shouted, "Nana, get me a beer." Nana, pretending not to hear him, rolled her toy taxi against the floor. Lantiers shouted again, this time with some pretense. Nana's imagination allowed her taxi to soar in the skies until the reality of getting hit in the back with a belt sent it crashing down towards the beaten-up wooden floor. Nana quickly brought her dad a beer and left unhappily to play alone in her room. The air in the room was tense. Gervais, listening to Lantiers shouting at Nana, felt like a piece of wood was being bent over her head. Water began dripping from a crack in their moldy plywood ceiling. Lantiers stood up to inspect it. He squinted his eyes and let out a frustrated sigh. "Get me a bucket," he said. Gervais brought over a couple of empty coffee creamers and handed them to Lantiers. Suddenly, the ceiling gave out above Nana's bedroom. Water was flowing into Nana's bedroom at a panicking rate. Lantiers and Gervais waded through the dark room only to find fallen bookshelves, jumbled up bed sheets, and Nana trapped in a prison of their broken home. Half buried by water, which was now up to their waists, Lantiers made the decision to leave her and save themselves. Gervais in shock refused to leave their child alone in the room. She pushed him away, telling him to leave like the coward he is. It was closing time for the cafe. The woman was trying to pay her tab, digging through her purse for loose change, embarrassingly unzipping compartments she never even knew existed. She spent all her money to get here in the first place. She's from Lyon and spent several hours on a train to arrive in Paris to meet a man she had become acquainted with on the phone. 3 hours sitting there, trying to enjoy her cup of coffee. It had become quite cold. A humiliated Lantiers wandered the underground, trying to collect his thoughts. He couldn't stay here, not after all of this. There were so many paths leading up to the surface level, all of them slick with oil. But he took the one that he knew best. A little hatch to the night sky opened, and Lantiers was exposed to the cold winds of solitude. With hatred, he looked out at the world. Everything bad always happens to me, and even that stupid bitch will leave me alone? Fine then, I will live for myself. When suddenly across the street, he caught a glance of a miracle. Across the street stood Gervais and Nana. Lantier quickly scrambled down the scaffolding, running his fastest towards the two of them with relief. They looked exhausted, ready to throw in the towel, but their final round in life began when they saw Lantier approaching in the distance. Thankfully, he was crushed by a taxi. And out of this taxi, a handsome man in a suit, covering his head with a newspaper, darted towards the door of the closing cafe. The shop owner was pleased to see him, because this woman sitting against the window was quite adamant to stay and wait until the absolute last moment she could. He tried to console her, and she hit him in the face with her glove. He apologized profusely and convinced her to hear his side of the story on the way back to his apartment, unknowingly accompanied by Gervais and Nana.